I made my camera disappear. Let's bring that back. Here we are. All right. There we go. All right, here we are. I promise I have done this before. All right, guys, welcome. Welcome back to the show. I seriously meant to do 2 of these this month. I promise you. I meant to do 2 of these. Last week last week I was at the beach, and the week before the world just kind of went insane. And a lot happened, and I just kind of wanted to be around people that I love. So uh, that's why there weren't 2 this month. October, I'm gonna try again to do 2. We'll see what life throws at me. Of course, you guys are all here to see Paddy. Um, I'm excited to have a conversation with Paddy tonight. We have talked several times online in mostly the Basic Experts Gilded server, but we are going to have an actual conversation here. I didn't even know really, like, I'd seen a couple of his streams before, but this was like, oh, like putting a voice with a face and all that. This was like kind of one of the first times that this all like came together. So I'm excited for that. Before I bring Paddy on, though, and before I just ramble myself into a complete corner, I wanted to kind of bring everyone's attention to. Can we make this bigger? Yes, here we go. I want to bring everyone's attention to the Basic Experts Kickstarter for White Box. The song that you heard during my countdown is by Torchlight. That was from Basic Experts album for this particular project. You will find the link here in chat if you are on YouTube. I, for some reason, don't have the ability to chat from here. I don't know. Restream stuff. Like Vic said, boomer hour. So yeah. This is the white box. You guys have all heard Basic Expert talk about it. I just wanted to once again point people to this thing because 6 days to go. We're already $10,000 over the goal here. Just show John as much love and support as you possibly can. You've got 6 more days to jump on this thing, so go for it. Let's give him as much as we possibly can for all the cool stuff that he's done for us. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Paddy onto this train wreck. Paddy, welcome.
Hello. I think we're all here to see you, but I appreciate being aboard this train.
So it was one of those things. So like you stream regularly, you get into this rhythm when you stream on a regular basis. And with Rollin' Bones, I just had it. And I could just like essentially put myself on autopilot and I was going to go. With not doing the show every week, sometimes I just have to, like, my brain has to readjust every single time. I'm not as professional as I thought I was.
I feel it. No, it's one of those things. I didn't know what the term was, and I guess it's a VTuber term if you know what VTubers are.
Oh yeah.
They're a class of internet individual that I've come really recently. I've come to really enjoy a few. I've especially the ones that are on Rumble, because not all of the ones on Rumble are like degenerate retards. Some of them are retarded and they'll tell you that, but they're like the endearing Tylenol baby retards, not I probably really need to curb my language here. I'm very used to my free speech home on Rumble, so it is interesting when I get invited onto YouTube and I have to say sorry to T-shirt all the time, because by the time I recognize, oh yeah, I gotta do the, was it like the YouTube speak or jargon? But anyway, scuffed is that's the art of the weave, right? We're weaving back in now. We call the term scuffed. It's a VTuber term, but Paddy does it all the time. If you ever go to Paddy's channel, I'm always forgetting to take my mic off mute, and I talk for like 5 minutes before I remember to turn it back on again. It's sad, really. Wow.
So. See that I can't do that voice.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Well, that's a shame. That's many that do it better. I'm one of the best. I'm told. They say that, folks. I don't say that. That's like a nervous tick that I get. I didn't say that. Me as Trump said that.
Yeah.
Please forgive me.
That's what there's a handful of impressions that I can do, and that's not in the repertoire.
Okay, wait. What's your favorite? What's your go-to one?
It's going to be one of those situations where I say like this is the one, and then I just completely whiff on it. But it has been said that I can do a passable Sean Connery.
Okay.
So I'm going to attempt to be Sean Connery here for a minute.
Oh, very good. You gotta be Sean Connery pretending to be British, Sean Connery pretending to be Japanese, Sean Connery.
I'm Juan Sanchez Villalobos.
You know what's really
I'm
funny
not Spanish, I'm Egyptian.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's a Highlander, right? Did they say who they got to fill in his shoes in the? We got Henry Cavill, which is great. I think that was a win for everybody. And then I heard Dave Bautista is going to play the Kurgan.
That'll be interesting.
But I haven't seen who they've got to replace Sean Connery. When you can't, but you can try.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, so I'm one of those poor unfortunate souls that considers themselves a Highlander fan. And I say poor unfortunate soul. It was the spoony one, Noah Antweiler, who described it best. It's like being in an abusive relationship.
Oh,
just like this time he's not going to do it this time. He loves me, that kind of stuff. And so, but like honestly, when it comes to Highlander, the tagline of the movie was "There can be only one." And so the question is, okay, there can be only one. How do you get past that hump? I really like the way that they did Highlander the series.
Okay.
I think Duncan is a worthy successor to Connor. I can't think of a single Highlander sequel movie that I like. And I'm so worried. Like, they've been trying to do this Highlander reboot for years. At one point, it was supposed to be Ryan Reynolds as Connor McLeod.
No,
put up the ancient Giga Chat. I remember in 2012 when it was like Ryan Reynolds is going to be Connor McLeod, and I was just like, Ryan Reynolds, but that fell through. Now it's Henry Cavill. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Vic in chat here is saying Russell Crowe. Is that like official or is that fan casting? Because if it's official, that'd be pretty cool if he like takes it seriously and gets in shape for it. Fan casting, I can see. Oh, okay. Vic says it's Russell Crowe. So here is hoping that Russell Crowe has discovered ketosis and is going to actually take this seriously.
We find out that it's really just Marcus Aurelius, and he's like, yeah, after they carted me off the Colosseum, I came back and I didn't know what was going on, but they didn't chop my head off, so I got that going for me. Yeah, Russell Crowe's become he's not the man that he was. The interesting bit about Sean Connery and doing Sean Connery impression is I saw a trivia bit, and I don't know if it's true, so you guys can correct me if it's wrong, but there was a point where Sean Connery was approached to play Gandalf, and he declined. The story goes that he declined because he didn't think it was going to be that big, and he didn't want to do another movie that was like really off the wall, based off of books and filled with like a bunch of CGI. So I can just imagine Sean Connery being asked to play Gandalf, and he's like having flashbacks to wearing the red brutal bandolier for Zardoz and being like, no, I don't think I give a damn about doing that movie, and I think I'll do something else. So I started reading Lord of the Rings to my kids, and out of just curiosity, like morbid curiosity, I started reading Gandalf's dialogue as Sean Connery, and now it's stuck. So I can't help it.
See, the story that I always heard, because I've heard that same story, that he was approached for Gandalf and he turned it down. He said he didn't understand the script, and then Ian McKellen took it. You know, it was a huge hit. And so he told his agent, he's like, next time, don't let me say no, even if I don't understand a script. And the next script that he was handed was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, shit.
Which, honestly, I will put my cards on the table. I am a defender of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
I
the
love
movie.
that movie.
Not just honestly, the comic is good. I've gotten to where I'm not the biggest Alan Moore fan. He's one of those writers that as my sensibilities have changed, I'm not so big on him as I was when I was in college. But I really like the concept of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I like the first 2 volumes of the comic, and I really like that movie because it's just so bizarre and unique. And I think it was one of the last movies to like very heavily utilize miniaturized sets. So there's like even though it came out in 2003, there's like a tangibility to all of the set pieces because they like the car chase through the streets of Venice was done on a scale model. The rooftop chase with Mr. Hyde was models. So like there's all kinds of cool miniature work that they did in that movie, and it's one of the last to like fully utilize that particular special effect.
Yeah, so I guess it's not the making of the movie is very alluring to you more so than the actual content of the movie. Do you think?
Oh no, I love the movie.
I love the movie too.
There are so often that I just find like random quotes from that movie popping into my head. The God save the Queen. God, that's as much patriotism as we have around here. And anytime I hear about someone named Skinner, the first thing that pops into my head is Skinner, shut up. And then and even just the part about Dorian Gray, I met him at Eton College. It's all Connery quotes that come into my head. But
right, no, she was like, what did she say? Let me guess, you were the studious old man, and he was the young scholar, and he was like, no, actually, I was the young scholar.
He was the visiting lecturer, and I was the boy.
Yes, that's right. Dang, yeah, I need to watch the movie again. I need to see if I can actually remember some of those quotes because it's right there next to like my wife loves Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman, and we probably watch that movie 2 or 3 times a year. Like some kids rewatch some Disney movies. My kids are like, let's watch Van Helsing again, and I'm like, well, I could be watching Frozen, so I gotta pick my battles. And I love Van Helsing too, and it's weird how those movies were like they were right on par with I don't, if you ask me, like Van Helsing was on par with the first X-Men movie, as was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And I don't think it hit off because people just weren't at the point where they really appreciated like Gothic literature from years of yore.
So where I'm at with those movies, I break them into 3. Well, I'm gonna separate out X-Men because X-Men, I feel like kind of belongs to a different grouping of movies. I love X-Men. That first X-Men movie, I think, is still the best one they've ever made. Even including the Deadpool movies, I'm willing to die on that hill. But the 3 movies that I kind of lump into the same category all came out right around each other: The Mummy, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and Van Helsing. And for me, the rankings are that order that I just said them in: The Mummy, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Van Helsing. I appreciate Van Helsing. I want to like Van Helsing. The problem is everything that happens from the time he turns into a werewolf on.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I did think it was funny to have the dialogue back and forth between him and Dracula, and like the way I like the effect of him turning. I love the skin shredding really fast when the moon comes over. But yeah, I don't know. I think Van Helsing would be number 2. I think Mummy, obviously, Brendan Fraser's Mummy, number 1. I mean, I don't care if you're into horror, action, whatever it is. That's just a great all-around movie, and more people should watch it more often. But I think Van Helsing wins over League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, only because I think if you take those last 2 scenes, right, the fight between Van Helsing and Dracula, and then the fight with Mr. Hyde, and then the other guy that like Red Hulks out. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, what I will say in favor of Van Helsing, another one of those just like pieces of dialogue that pops into my head all the time is David Wenham's monk character.
Yeah.
Every time, like, just I'll randomly think, I'm a friar. I can say whatever I want. Damn it.
Yes. Yeah. Aren't you a priest?
I'm actually a friar.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. That was right before the 300. So I mean, he was still pretty small for that one.
That's another, that voice. Every time I hear that voice, there was a time where I like could do a passable David Wenham impression, just because when I was 13, 14 years old, Deadliest Warrior was on TV.
Yes.
And so that's just like, every time I hear that voice, I think the Apache, the ninja.
Well, that's good. That'll be great to know for when we need to when all of the TBN Associates guys start filming trailers. We can get you to do your David Wenham impression.
Who is deadliest?
Awesome. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about movies, but as far as games go,
yeah, what have you been into recently, just as far as like at your table? What have you been playing?
So at my table, I've been playing a lot of war games and board games with my son. We have yeah, one of my guilty pleasures is Cool Mini or Nots, Cthulhu Death May Die. And we've been trying to make our way through the chapters of that. And then we play a lot of war games. So whether it's my game that I wrote, Mutants, which is a miniatures agnostic skirmish war game. If you guys are familiar with like Necromunda or perhaps Dead Zone for Mantic, that game would be like right up your alley. So we played a lot of that, and then we moved on a little bit because One Page Rules is one of my favorite like mass battle war games. I don't play a lot of 40K proper. But One Page Rules is doing a massive update, so we're playing a lot of that. And then as far as like RPGs go, my brother and I, we've kind of like, we wanted to do this thing, and maybe this is something that's worth talking about a lot because it's something that was and still is super duper important to me. But you might be familiar with the project that was put together, the RPG Awards Commission, or the RAC. Do you recall when I was doing that?
Yes.
So we came up with a rubric that would help judges score games, and I started amassing some judges, and that's incredibly difficult. But the point being, and feel free to ask me more about this later, I said, okay, so the RPG Awards Commission as it is probably on ice for the next foreseeable future, but I don't want that to stop us from playing a bunch of different games. And so throughout the year, we've made our way. Our most consistent game that we've been playing is Horde Wars Advanced by Blackwall Games. I'm sure a lot of people in the chat probably are very, very much aware of that. And on our off weeks, we've been doing one shots of smaller indie RPG games. So that's I'm sure you saw my review of Deathbringer. Deathbringer. We've played Let It Roll by Cyrus Wright. We've played Call of Wrath by Castle Grief. We've played Tiny D10 by my friend Aaron. And we're making our way through a bunch of stuff. Like I got Makuhitals on my list. We've played a bunch of Shadow Dark right at the beginning of the year, but we haven't actually played it on the channel yet. But so that's kind of my thing right now. There's a bunch of people who buy a bunch of systems and never play them. They just play, whatever their main squeeze is. Yeah. And I'm doing my best to try and like really get other people's games to have some play time and show off to people. So that's what I'm into right now.
Yeah, you hit on an interesting idea there. And this is just so everyone knows, I'm flying by the seat of my pants tonight. We have no plans. And Paddy just brought up something that I want to talk about here for a little bit. When it comes to actually making your way through that shelf of games that you have, it's this kind of recurring running meme within the hobby of just having a shelf full of games you've never played. I think to work through that shelf of games, you have to kind of embrace the mindset that you just brought up there. And you have to kind of be willing to be the guy with all the games that just like introduces people to them. Just, hey, we're going to take a break from the regular game tonight. Let's play one session or 1 to 2 sessions of this game. It's not, we're not going to say we're going to commit to a campaign because even, not every game is built for campaigns. But, we're going to try this tonight. And if we like it, we can come back to it. And if not, then, don't worry about it. It's just, one night of gaming. I think it would behoove gamers to actually approach the hobby that almost like you're at a convention, but it's in your house every week. Because that's what you do at cons. You just play individual sessions of games you haven't ever played before.
And that's one of the things, like we like to make fun of the people who have the 6-session curse, if you will. I think it warrants the criticism for people who want to say that that they are coming from a place of authority when it comes to these games, and you get people that want to tell you what way is the correct way of playing and what way is the not the correct way of playing, and we all know that raw is law. But yeah. I think you really appreciate raw is law when you play a bunch of different games. And there's a couple of reasons there. One, when you play as many games as I do, sometimes you get into like the thick of it and you realize, oh shoot, we're playing, we accidentally used Call of Wrath's rules. Let's go look at Let It Roll, because that's objectively, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying specifically to play this game and decide if it's good and if we should recommend it.
Yeah.
I've only had one game so far that I was disappointed, and it might have been my fault. But as far as the one shots go, when I was in the Army, that's probably, that was some of the best gaming you got, because you never knew, like, some guy's gonna go on training the next day and he'll be gone for a month, or you got guys that are constantly ETSing, getting out of the Army, or PCSing, changing duty stations. And so there were a couple of times where I would start these long form campaigns and then it would be, well, I can't show up because I'll be gone. And so then for a while I started doing a bunch of one shots. So I got really adept at being able to have a play session, be able to round out, and it's not necessarily like doing like the cliffhanger or we got to a natural stopping point, but being objective focused when we sit down to play a game and being able to get that far. That very, very much so time management. When I I talk about the segments that I do on my channel now, I do call them boldly rolling, because the joke being boldly rolling where no one has rolled before.
Yep.
That's become really interesting, because my brother and I, we didn't want to have to like try to remember whose turn it was to DM, and we play a lot of things kind of solo or DM-less. So we are really interested in games that come pre-packaged with like an Oracle system. So that way we can both play and learn the rules and reference the rules as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an interesting ride, and I can't wait to do more of it. So,
mm-hmm. But no, the idea of the RPG awards, was it committee?
Commission, yes.
Commission. This is something that I'm also interested in. Just, I remember, now that you said, I'd actually forgotten, but now that you said it, like, there's like a memory unlocked in my head. A lot's happened over the past 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
But there's something to this idea of kind of like these alternate institutions. And I know, like, you've been big on this the entire time I've known you, trying to create or trying to support alternate institutions within commentating, within role playing. You've been the biggest embracer of Rumble that I've seen. I believe your primary home for your products is it Giant Slayer Games these days?
I'm a little bit homeless now.
Okay.
I don't have any ill will towards Giant Slayer Games. And Jeff, if you're out there, I love you, buddy. There was some small talk going on where I was going to take on a bigger role behind Giant Slayer Games. Unfortunately, I think Jeff is very like consumed by his. I guess they are his real life responsibilities.
Yeah.
He's a dedicated family man with wonderful kids, and he also does, like, I want to say, I don't think it's wrestling, I do think it's MMA, and he does have a store that does better business with that. And I can make some mild conjecture about where I think his headspace was at, considering, I know right before the show, not necessarily want to make this about the drama, but I think he had caught on and seen a lot of it and just decided, if I've only got an hour of spare time a week, the last thing I really want to do is be wrangling and herding these cats. So
yep.
We tried, and it didn't necessarily work out quite yet. I still do have my store up on Giant Slayer Games, and you can support me there. Otherwise, I'm trying to learn a little bit more about my merch store, Fourth Wall, and I want to put more of my digital works there and do fulfillment. Our friend Victor, he made a really good point once upon a time, and it was one of the things that kind of made me try to. I had to make some decisions, right? Because I can't remember if it was Victor or the Basic Expert. And I remember they said something very profound to the effect of, like, why would I fight hard to stay out of Walmart because of my convictions and what I think is correct, only so that way I could put my book up next to, like, the adult magazines at the seedy, stinky shop down the street.
Yep.
And I didn't think much of it until one day I on my Rumble channel, I did weekly giveaways. I was always giving away my own PDFs, and I would call it my Giant Slayer Roundup. And so what was that? I would go to the Giant Slayer webpage, and we would take a look at what the new release is. We'd give that person a shout out, provide the link. And basically it was, yes, if you can make it through me talking about something on Giant Slayer, then I roll the faded die of Michael Dale. Michael, if you're out there, he bought me a 100-sided die, and then I'd roll the die, and then everybody that had made it through halfway through my show would get a chance at winning. But they had to watch me shill Giant Slayer. So anyway, there's one time I went to go do that, and I clicked onto Giant Slayer, and everyone's least favorite sad old commie had had a I I think it was like he published like a newsletter for his adult time game. And I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna say I'm like actually a family show, because I'm a soldier raised by Marines and my mouth is uncouth at best. But I will tell you what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna advertise adult time activities of prurient nature.
Yep.
And so I remember at the time being like, I'm not saying that he can't publish that there, but I am saying until that's removed from the front page, I'm not going to be posting that on my Rumble channel, because I'm also not going to risk getting my Rumble channel taken down either.
Right.
Because that would defeat the whole purpose. Then nobody wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just kind of worked out like that. I really do hope that one day Jeff will contact me and be like, okay, it's the time. I'm retired and we're gonna do this. And then I'm hoping that I'm ready and willing to like go full fledged, because you know, talking about like the RPG Awards Commission and doing these alternative things, you know, we just got news from the House of Representatives that YouTube admitted to saying we definitely were pressured by the Biden administration to shut down a lot of people. And you remember, you know, 5-6 years ago, it was vehemently, no, that's not what we're doing. That's not how this happens. That's not how it works. And then 6 years later, it's like, all right, you got us, mea culpa. And you're like, whoa. Okay, give me my 6 years back, asshole.
Yeah.
I don't know. So the thing about it, and I'm sure you've seen me tell the guys this, it's like, I know what my convictions are, and I know what my mission is. And it's self-prescribed, and it's self-punished, really is what it is. But I'm not gonna go around and say like, oh, we need to, I don't like drive-through because they did this and this and that. And then go to all my friends who make their bones off a drive-through, and then be like, well, you have to do this. And it's like, well, there isn't a viable alternative.
Right.
What I can do is I can help build one up, so that way, if you were ever faced with a day that there was no other option, you have a place that you can go. I think is generally where I was at for a little while.
Yeah.
And I think even to like your own assessment, was just like, why would you leave the money on the table? Like the BLG guys, Ginger Fraser tells me all the time, like, what are you doing? Like, just post on YouTube. And it's like, yeah, I guess maybe.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like you said, there are concerns about, like, you know, the politics of certain companies out there, especially the ones that are big players here, and they have been censorious in the past. YouTube has definitely been censorious, and drive-through has definitely had its moments of weirdness. Although I do think a couple of them were well deserved, if I'm being perfectly honest. But when it ultimately comes down to it, like Vic says, drive-through is fairly reasonable if you don't call them slurs on X. That is
very fair. That is a very fair assessment.
Yeah. But the other thing that it comes down to, and this is something I started to notice about a year and a half ago, everyone that's operating now, and this, I hate to sound like a broken record on this, but you guys have heard me talk about this before. This is a very Gen X mindset. There's this assumption that everything that is like currently institutionalized and popular and around is going to always be there. There's this assumption in pop culture, in media, in just like stores, that there's every possibility in the world that, 10 years from now, this would be like a catastrophic turn of events as far as just like economics. But, 10 years from now, it's perfectly possible that like Walmart stores wouldn't exist anymore. that's like the dystopian option in a lot of cases because of like what they've done to small towns, but
Yep.
none of this stuff is guaranteed to be around. And so those of us who want to do business, it behooves us to have places to go, because who's to say that one bookshelf is going to be able to, stay in business for the next 10, 15 years. And, for someone like myself, 10 to 15 years from now, I'm going to be 45, and I'm not going to be able to retire. I'm still going to have a wife and a child that I would like to make money to support. And so to pursue this professionally, I'm going to need somewhere to sell my books. So what are we left with here? We've got to build up these kind of, alternate institutions at the very least, so that we don't find ourselves caught with nothing to our names.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because with the rise of self-publishing as it is, I'll tell you what, one of the biggest rivals to drive-through right now is actually just Amazon.
Yeah.
And I'm not there. As far as the alternative to drive-through goes, I've been through the rise and the fall of BLG, and from the heat and the cooling of BLG. Big Geek Emporium, BGE.
Yep.
May the BLG boys rise forever. Love you guys.
Yep.
But Big Geek Emporium, I watched that get there, and I remember how hard I pushed to try to get people over there, and I had a lot of people have faith in me and what I was trying to sell them on this idea after having talked to the guys that ran that website, and just being all for it. And then watching people who will sit there and take dollars, legitimately take money from guys like BGE, who were operating at no cost. BGE had no commissions. They were doing business as is, right? But I've seen people take advertising dollars and then release their own stuff and not even publish there. And they'll say I support you, but I'm going to go and publish my book exclusively on drive-through. That was one of the things that really pissed me off. Not to mention that guy also went out of his way to alienate and push the all-star writers that came over to BGE. So there's that. And watching that happen, I was like, well, the last thing that I want to do is go and tell my beloved friends who, like I said, I'm very fortunate. I'm able to pay my bills off of my day job, and then I get to come home and I get to watch Hercules: The Legendary Journeys and draw for people, and that gives me my side cash. And when my windshield wipers break on my truck, I can go replace my windshield wipers without digging into my income.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate in that. Some of my friends, they are not that fortunate, and this business is their end all be all. So I never fault people who have to make their living in a particular way. And again, as much animus that I had towards one bookshelf in the beginning, after having been led astray and not really understanding, because when the Red Room got taken off of drive-through, I was still super duper new to everybody on X, really.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to play catch up and figure out, okay, well, I know what I want to do. I know what I came on to do. I'm doing this to try to be supportive of people who are not going to get support when somebody digs up a tweet from them 7 years ago and says that guy's a Nazi. You know what I mean? I wanted to be that support for those people doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the grand scheme of things, one bookshelf, even though the moniker one bookshelf is just rustles my jimmies. You shouldn't just trust companies that are one anything.
Right.
But they're not as bad as other places. And I don't know. I have stuff on drive-through. I just don't market it that often.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, Night Haven's on drive-through. It's on Amazon. It's on Lulu. I'm not exclusive with drive-through, but we have to deal with the cards that were dealt. Also, you know, we want to back people who are doing cool things that will help us kind of build alternately. And that's that this is kind of the other side of the issue here, and why I really appreciate the spirit that you have in this hobby, because doing these things is thankless and hard. And there's basically like no money in it. I have I have looked into several different ways that I can like kind of create an infrastructure for the future of role playing games. And a lot of it comes down to I'm going to have to spend a lot of time and money for probably very little return
Yep.
if I pursue these things. And so that's kind of like the issue is, you know, who has the heart for it, who has you know, the will to actually see these things through, even if it, you know, doesn't you know, yield a life of fame and riches, you know, while you're still walking this earth. And so I really do appreciate folks like you who do stuff like that.
Well, thank you. I will say, you know, I wasn't the only one. There was I feel weird because I don't know like which names I'm at liberty to drop. So I'm not trying to obfuscate.
Right.
Just necessarily know that I was working with a bunch, most importantly, chiefly two other guys that were trying to help build an alternative. Mm-hmm. And then we saw BGE and that come and go. And then we were trying to work on something our own. And we were like formulating these plans of like, okay, well, you know, if we're going to bring people to this website, because what you're really battling with One Bookshelf, like One Bookshelf is not drive-through RPG. One Bookshelf is War Games Vault, which I was familiar with before drive-through. It's drive-through comics, it's drive-through cards. You know, you're battling with people who have decades worth of digital purchases that are cached in their servers that they can get at any time. So you're already providing an inconvenience when you're asking them to put their email in for one more newsletter. And then what would be the draw? Well, we have to get somebody willing to become exclusive. And having been on Rumble for as long as I have, well, I'll tell you what the problem with that is Rumble saw a lot of people, and these are streamers that I didn't know who they were, right? But I know their names now because, you know, I was very interested in watching Rumble make its moves and seeing how I can emulate that for something like Giant Slayer Games. They went ahead and they signed lucrative exclusive agreements with a streamer named Sneeko, the guy that owns like Happy Dad's beer. I can't remember his name. I think most recently was the mustache guy, Mr. Dr. Disrespect.
Yep.
So he was the most recent one, and he seems to have proven to be the most loyal, right? But it was also, he got banned off of YouTube. So where was he going? The exclusive deals have not boded well for Rumble,
right?
Nearly as much as the people who chose Rumble. In you know, that's the other thing too. It's like the moment a website says we're the home of free speech, you just change that banner if you put on the glasses, right?
They live glasses, yep.
Right, yeah. It doesn't say free speech, it says conservative.
Yep.
Conservative gathering point. We're the home of free speech. Conservative gathering point. Free speech. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So and for a while, I mean, even to this day, right? We look at the guys that got canceled off of YouTube, made their home on Rumble, and they were the ones that really built that house.
Yep.
And I see that Rumble is really picking up streaming, and there's this push for Rumble gamers. And it's interesting because you know, we've talked in the TBE server a lot about I need to choose my words. Tylenol-induced babies of alternate sexuality.
Yes.
Catch me on Rumble and see how I really feel. They're everywhere. It's not just RPGs. It's in the knitting community. It's in the It's in the Rumble streaming community.
Mm-hmm.
And I love a lot of my Rumble gamers, and I noticed that there's infighting there. And you're like, where did it even start? How do you, like, am I going to get in trouble if I'm showing up in this guy's stream and another guy catches you? Like, oh, well, Paddy was hanging out in this guy's stream, so he's probably not your friend anymore. And I was like, no, that's not the case. But I see that Rumble gamers can be very capricious, right? They especially with Rumble having the Rumble Creator Program, and I always have a bit of a sardonic laugh when I see people like, all right, chat, we out here, we grinding, and we're gonna get that money, and Rumble's like, here's $1,000 for streaming to Rumble. And it's like, well, you played video games, and like, why are you making it so? Why are you making it so hard or make it sound so filled with drama? Because I mean, at the end of the day, playing NBK 2K, dude.
Well, and this is the thing, and this is one of the reasons why I now show up on the stream in a sport coat with a collared shirt, and why my rhetoric has changed, and I've gotten so aggro on certain things for whatever reason. Actually, I know what the reason is. It's spiritual femininity. Sorry to the 3 ladies that are watching the stream. It's okay for you to be feminine. You're women. But men acting in this manner, there is this thing that is just kind of part and parcel of geek culture as we know it today, that just creates this atmosphere of eternal drama, this need to constantly position yourself as the victim of some kind of campaign to shut you out. And it doesn't matter if you try to actively avoid it, as we've seen, as you personally have seen, as Vic here in chat has seen, Basic Expert, and all of us who, hang out with each other. It just kind of comes after you because you say something that makes someone's butt feel a little bit sore, and suddenly you are attacking like their very existence. You've committed an act of existential warfare against them because you have an alternate opinion, and it just devolves into this like petty backstabbing nonsense. And so I want to change that. I don't want people behaving this way anymore, because I want an actual industry that people can make money in. But
same,
it's just, and it's like you said, it's a certain type of person who has been who has become that way because of the I guess it's just the consequences of modernity. Like you said, Tylenol induced.
I think that's what it is. I know we always like to say, like, well, stop being so feminine, like do some push-ups. But I really want to push back on that, because it's what it is. It's evil. I mean,
it's evil.
Let's do the brass tacks. Femininity is not evil. Femininity is beautiful.
Right.
But like all good things, and you know this probably better than I am, because I mean I'm going through a crisis of faith myself. But evil will take good things and turn them on their head, and that's where a lot of these guys are at. And I think, unfortunately, right, they not know what they do is important, because some of these guys, they just really have not had anybody show them the correct way to act and behave. It's some of these guys are adults, and they make their own adult decisions, right? But I couldn't imagine being an adult making decisions like that, and like wondering if people are like, I don't know, disrespecting how my mom raised me, You know what I mean? Like I would never be so brazen to act out of turn and people question whether or not I was raised right. So there's that. And then the other thing too, I think I was talking crossface in that chat. You know, it's like if you're my friend, you're going to push me to be better, right?
Yeah.
And evil often recoils at the thought of challenge and difficulty because evil loves to be lazy, right? Even of all the battles that evil wins, it's out of encouraging more people to not fight that battle than it is on really its own merit, like more often than not. And so when I think about the people that I surround myself now with and how they encourage me to be better, I'm very comforted knowing that even though my back may be sore at the end of it, it's all worth it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, there have been several different ways that this has been stated. You know, you have Augustine who would say that evil is a
oh no, it's happening. I'm taking over Rolling Bones. It's me now. I'm in charge. I don't know. I gotta have like the stream live. I can try to read some chat while I see if Brian's back. Not quite. I don't hear you.
Here I am. Okay.
There you are. Okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's happening. Quick Chinese fire drill.
But yeah, like there have been multiple different ways that this has been stated, you know, years and years ago. But that's what evil does: is it subverts. It takes things that are good in a certain context and puts them in the wrong context, and you know, then it's not so good anymore. But yeah, it's interesting to think about it in terms of good and evil, because on one hand, you think to yourself, like, you know, this is the elf game, you know, like does good and evil really enter into the drama that we're having back and forth with people who play D&D? But yes, honestly, it does, because as Crossface says over and over again, it turns out alignment is real. And
yes,
there are certain people who really just kind of want to drag everyone down into this this morass of, some of it's consumerism, some of it is whatever it is that Grim Jim is doing. I don't know what words I can or cannot say on YouTube anymore. But there's this just kind of, you know, essentially pulling everyone down, pulling everything down. And what it comes down to for me is, if this is going to be worth doing, and I love this hobby of role-playing games, if this is going to be worth doing, worth spending time on, there has to be some kind of positive to it. And so, like, can these games actually teach you to be a spiritually stronger person? Can they teach you to have, you know, like, courage of your convictions? Can they teach you something about the human condition by you know, analogizing it with the various monsters and creatures that you encounter and the various ways that you have to deal with them? I believe so. And this is an article that I've been working on for a couple weeks, but this is one of the reasons why I've kind of fallen out of love with The Witcher. I feel like The Witcher, one, misrepresents what monsters are meant to be. Monsters are supposed to be the dark reflections of the evil within humanity that's essentially brought forward and made manifest in these creatures. Whereas The Witcher kind of takes the Guillermo del Toro model of it's just misunderstood, or it's just, you know, something that you're not used to and you need to get used to it. And it takes this concept of moral grayness or moral ambiguity. And instead of saying, you know, to me, the concept of moral ambiguity, rightly understood, is sometimes it's hard to tell what good and bad is in the given circumstances. But if you align yourself uh, with good spiritually, if your heart is pure and you are pursuing ultimately something that is good, you will, find yourself on the right path. Uh, it's just it'll get ugly sometimes. Like the ugliness will appear in front of you. Whereas uh, something like The Witcher tries to pretend like, all these factions are very clearly evil, but they ultimately commit to one over the other. It's one of these things that, yeah, it's like the Alan Moore thing that I mentioned earlier. It's as I've changed as a person, it's just something I can't unsee anymore. And so it's just, I don't know if I can love this franchise anymore. But yeah, I mean, we see this kind of thing all the time in role-playing games.
Yeah, I really appreciated what Greg and Crossface were doing with their society that was modeled after what Tolkien and friends were doing. The Quorum Society, I forget exactly. I remember it was called. Hold on, I got this inspiration for the Quorum. It was the Thinklings, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, the QoSR. That's what Greg was doing. I was able to pull it up. But the return to understanding that sometimes evil is just as evil does, and there isn't a whole lot more explanation than that. That we've romanticized a lot of what people did, and like it's interesting. We get to the point where people are like, "Well, Thanos was right," and it's like, no, Thanos was wrong. Yep. And the fact that you think Thanos was right is not great. And as I go forward, I had like a 2-hour stream of Conscious last night while I'm dealing with some stuff. I think when it comes to the talk about, oh yeah, why does it have to be so crazy with Elf Game? Why does it have to be so crazy in the knitting community and so on and so forth? It's one thing to say, it's like, well, I really think that that Holmes Basic is best, and someone says, no, I think second edition is best. That's kind of it's whatever. We've been quarreling with that. Well, I think I think fencing is better when you practice. Dude, I had all of the Princess Bride lines in my head up until like just a second ago. Yeah. You had Agrippa. Oh, Agrippa's better, But it takes a much different turn when you see people doing like character assassination, threatening someone else's livelihood. And for all that we see in our modern media, and I was in Diversity and Dragons chat, and there was a fellow that was talking about how the right interacts with art, and one of the reasons why we lose is because we don't appreciate art. We're not making art. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. A lot of righties are making really great art, fantastic art. People who don't outwardly say, and I'm not going to call you guys out, but I adore you. But some of the best creators in the world are the ones that are conservative, that aren't coming out and saying that they are.
Right.
They're not making that their identity. So what I really do think it comes down to is one, that the institutions that get to play tastemaker, they have the ability, they have a very obtuse privilege of being able to decide what you're likely to see, not necessarily what you can or can't see, but what you're likely to see. And that is an extremely uphill battle. especially when we always make the analogy of crabs in the bucket, especially when we got crabs in the bucket that are just really tired of hanging out with crabs.
Yep.
And the other ones, it's not even about like dragging each other down. It's just like, I'm really done hanging out with you assholes. Like, just let me out of here. And then they won't even let you go.
Yep. You'll be with us forever.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird that it's come to this, but maybe it's not weird. It feels weird that it's come to this. But we're at kind of a stage in civilization where it seems like everything's just on the table now. Like all the masks are off. And so, what do we do? Do we pretend like we're just going to argue over, what rule set is better when we know damn well that those people haven't read the rules? No, it's not about that anymore.
Dude, Gaijin hasn't read the rules in 40 years.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victor. We love you.
Yep. That the evergreen meme. And so it's not like when I say this, it's not like, me saying, oh, the OSR guys aren't just silly, they're evil. That's not what I'm talking about. It's the people that want these games to essentially be their gross there's no other way to say that than like role play, but like they want to be able to role play out the deepest, darkest fantasies from the recesses of their mind, and that's the value that they get out of this game, versus the people who want to use this as a game, as kind of a competition, whether it's a competition with other people at the table or with these ideas that are set up and run through the game master. But a challenge to overcome. That's ultimately what we're looking at when we talk about games. Is there is a challenge to overcome. There are parameters that are set that prevent you from behaving in certain ways. You have to interface with the simulation in a certain way to ultimately reach some kind of objective. And ideally, with all the best games, and this is going back to the most ancient games, stuff like chess or stuff like the free Kriegspiel, or really any kind of wargaming, because wargaming is even older than the free Kriegspiel if you really think about it. All of these are designed to sharpen the mind. It's not it is a leisure activity, but it's more than that. There's a greater purpose behind all of these things. And if we can get to a point where, we just embrace that. And I think, this is one of the reasons why I continue to associate with all the people in the Gilded server that Basic Expert so kindly hosts for us. I think everyone there kind of gets it. Like, they get that, it's fun, but ultimately there's some kind of greater purpose that we need to bring out in our games. And so like that's the horse I want to back, and that's the team I want to be on moving forward. And as we can see, voicing those ideas comes with a very loud pushback of I just want to have fun, or I just want to role play my darkest fantasies, or whatever it is. Just it really is. It's weighed on me. It has very much weighed on me. It's made me extremely jaded, and it's made me kind of burned out on like role playing games as a whole for a while. And I think that's just what it comes down to, is no, like, okay, this war has taken a different turn.
What you're telling me is it does make me, it makes me uncomfortable. And it does make me sad, because I generally agree with you. I have been able to be a dungeon master and a referee for a great many of people, from when I was running games in middle school for the neighborhood kids, the apartment kids, and they were coming over, to being in Dungeons and Dragons Club and being president of that Dungeons and Dragons Club, and then moving from Vegas to Indianapolis and getting those guys, and then running games by pulling numbers out of my soft cover, my hat, in basic, to being deployed and running games there, and then back again, and now I'm in rural small town Idaho, and my best and my most favorite players are my wife and my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a great solace in that one. I take a great deal of joy when my oldest son, because I was talking to Harmony about making foam swords for Belagarth and Dagger here, and it's always very invigorating for me to see him be excited and very confident in what he likes and being able to share that with the other neighborhood kids, and then also best them at foam sword battle. My son is a savage. And then I mean, I came home and he was typing away on his iPad. He was learning a word processing app so he can write his own game. And
nice.
That's really cool. I think, you said that you have a kid. I hope that you have as many kids as you want, and maybe perhaps more, because they are a great joy. And I hope that, how old is your kid now?
3.
So, I mean, 3 years old, you get that golf ball D100 that they can't swallow.
Yeah.
And get them into rolling dice. I mean, I've got pictures of my son being 3 and painting miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's always doing those activities next to my child, and now it's like second nature. I come home and it's like, are we gonna play Gamma World? I kind of have a really interesting conundrum. It's like, man, I think I play too many games. If I keep playing, I'll never get anything else done. I still have a shed to build, for crying out loud. So I do think that's important. And I know that not everyone is, I know that's not an option for everybody, right? Some of our wives aren't into it. And I'm very fortunate to have that. And the moment that I come up with a solution, that you can rope women into your women into playing games with you, I'm going to publish that finding as soon as I can. The problem is, my behavioral testing group is really small.
So the concept of family gaming, I do want to come back to something that you mentioned. The concept of family gaming, I have had a lot of success with it in my life. My family has been very patient with my gaming habit. My wife has decided that she can't role play in anything that I'm running. Just I'm a very intense person, and that comes through in the way that I role play sometimes, and I think it becomes a little too much for her sometimes. So that's one of those things where she's like, I can't role play with you anymore. Okay, fine. But my current gaming group is my dad and my little sister's boyfriend, and we're having a blast.
Hell yeah.
My one of my favorite memories of gaming was a game with my family. Now, this memory has been kind of tainted because it involved one of my little sister's old boyfriends, who there was some ugliness as far as that relationship ending. But we were playing a D&D session that I came up with where the women of the party had been invited to what was basically a medieval fantasy version of The Bachelor, where all of these female adventurers from around the continent had been called into the palace of this bachelor prince, and they were going to compete in various competitions for the right to be his queen. And so They seem to get into that a little bit. I don't know if there's mileage out of that. I might take another pass at that at some point, but that's something where I actually found I had some engaged female players one time was when I created D&D Bachelor.
Yeah, I think I remember at one point just saying it's like, well, and I can't remember if it was to you or somebody else in the Gilded server, so I didn't want to call you out. But I remember there's a couple of people that were talking about their home games falling apart, and my Shadow Dark campaign that I was running kind of fell apart, and not necessarily because of changing taste of the game, but I mean, summer came around and fishing became important again, as it does. And then I wanted to change the rule set, and I was very dead set on wanting to change the rule set because I wanted to play a different game.
Yep.
And I had a little bit of pushback where it was like, well, it seems like that's a combat focused game, and I really like the way that you run like the role playing and the outside of combat stuff. And I'm like, well, so that's where you're wrong because any game, like any role playing game, and like my brother Jeremy's in chat, he'll tell you that we'll be playing tabletop war games. Like, these are not role playing games. We're playing actual war games, and I have as much fun role playing scenarios out in that game as I do like playing D&D or Shadow Dark or Horde Wars for that matter. And you do have to decide. It's like, okay, well, what's the trade-off? Do I be dead set in my ways and I say I'm going to change the rules, I'm the one who's running the game, so play or don't play? Well, I mean, that decision always ends up being put on you too, where it's like, okay, well, play or don't play. You can play our way or you don't play. And there are some situations where I will tell people don't play, but there are a lot of situations where I would say, how important is that really? And I think that also moves on to like the greater, like the greater RPG creator concept, where what is it worth to you? Insofar as like building up the other platforms. Like, I think about the efforts that I put in, and now I realize, like, shoot, I think your best alternative is probably Amazon or starting a fourth wall and having your own website, because it's so hard to get people to coalesce and to see past their smaller differences. And sometimes those smaller differences, they will let them snowball into bigger differences that's harder to forgive. So what I will say is, forgive early and forgive often, but know where you draw the line. And more importantly is that you need to be willing to meet people. You need to be willing to meet people with where you're at, not necessarily where they're at. Confronting an issue as a man should, as a mature adult individual should, is always much better than saying, I think I got to walk away. Because I think walking away and not really tackling that problem. I mean, that's how I've done it with my wife and I. My wife and I have never just walked away. We've always, as hard as it was, worked through it right then and there. That way it's not an unresolved conflict, because that's a tumor that just grows and metastasizes, and it's going to get brought up later. No, really, you gotta clean your house as you go. You can't just let a mess continue to fester, and then wonder why, like, your house fell apart. Like, man, why did my whole relationship fall apart? Well, because you let that one corner of the house continue to grow a mold until it got into the wood, and then that corner fell apart. Now you got no house.
Yep. And this is, back at the kind of like table level, this is one of the reasons why I've become such a proponent of this kind of low prep, open campaign style of game, where, like, here's the world, here's some people to interact with, go find stuff to do, because there's this old saying that war is politics by other means. So when it comes to a combat scenario, sometimes combat occurs because there's a communication breakdown. Sometimes it occurs because there's a hungry creature that thinks you're food. So thinking of games in terms of like, this game is about combat or this game is about role playing, the game is about whatever you find yourself stuck in. If you and you have to have rules that support this, which is one of the reasons why you mentioned it at the very beginning of the stream. A game like Deathbringer isn't a complete game because it doesn't have complete rules. It's why the Candela Obscura, that dumpster fire, was such a dumpster fire because it didn't have complete rules for the things that could reasonably occur within the settings and type of game that it was trying to bolster. But the idea here is just, you have the freedom to make choices. I'm not going to force you down any corridor. This is not a dark ride where you're on a train track. You're going to make choices, and I'm going to roll dice based on those choices. And sometimes it'll go really well for you and it'll be exactly the way you wanted it. And sometimes it'll go really poorly, and then you have to deal with it in a way other than what you originally thought. And to me, that is fair, more fair than just, okay, now we have to have an encounter because the book says we have to have an encounter. No, like, we have an encounter because that's a natural result of this table that I rolled on based on where you guys are going. So I think embracing that style of play helps mitigate some of those issues around, like whether or not, is this a combat or a role play game? Is this a political intrigue game? I don't know. Is it? Do you want to get into political intrigue?
I will tell you, and forgive me because I do sell modules, so I do want to defend modules.
Oh, I do too.
Well, like when I read Rake's Codex, it's not like what I write. I write like specific adventures. Adventures.
Yeah.
And I will maintain that I do think the reason why theme parks are still in business is because, writing on rails, given the right context and the right amount of turns, can be quite the experience. I would say, like, if I could go back in time to the RPGA, and it was really fun to talk about this last night on Dunder's channel with his panel in the chat anyway. But to be regaled at the time of the RPGA and to think about what the game was like back then, and people talking about the Tomb of Horrors and saying, don't tell me, I want to go to this con and I want to witness it for the first thing with my own eyes and my own ears, and every trap be new to me. If I could, I'd pay. I wouldn't even just pay to have Gary Gygax running for me or whomever at the time. I would pay just to have a DM who really liked running the rules and running specifically tourney style dungeons, because I want to buy tickets for that ride and I want to know what it's like. And I do highly encourage, like I said earlier, we like to make fun of the people who have the succession curse. I don't know. And it might be because the fact that I'm so welcome and ready and willing to play so many different games, but I highly recommend people just, if you're actively playing in a campaign, right? Appreciate it. Want it. It's like Adam Sandler looking at that kid. Don't ever grow up, right? But I do. If you're at a weird point and you can't seem to get a campaign to go, why don't you zero prep a one shot?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a West Marches. Marches is so hot right now, and for obvious good reasons. I'm playing in a game by a fella that goes by Dice Bag, and he creates a fantasy Pokemon knockoff that uses a lot of the World of Darkness D10 design choices in it, and it's a fun game. He runs as West Marches. I might get to play once every couple of months, and it feels a lot like a just like meeting up with some friends and playing a one shot for me. But for him, he's running these games and he's like actively writing it and doing the art for it. He's very engrossed in what he's doing,
Yep.
But for the average person who's like, I just want to play a game and I don't want to, I want to be committed to playing. But some people can really get consumed by playing in their specific world, or with a particular cast of characters, rather than just being able to sit down and let themselves be along for the ride. So as I've gone through, I've also really come to appreciate that's okay if I get to play a game one time and I had a really good experience and I think that we played the game accurately. I mean, I have a great time. Like I said, I think my only constant player is Jeremy. And then we've had like a rotating cast of Twitter profiles. I mean, I've played with Ultra. I've played with Savage Brewski. We've played with Grendel 13. The other day we're playing with Raven. So constantly rotating players, constantly rotating games. And I do recommend that experience.
Yeah, I've been down on the dark ride, the roller coaster, as some people have analogized it. I'm someone who enjoys going to theme parks. Like, I love Universal Studios. I am delighted that I am back near my beloved Carowinds, where I grew up going. So I understand and deeply enjoy the thrill of a roller coaster. And never once have I been on a roller coaster and said, this would be better if I were driving it.
Right.
The problem, and this, it's one of these problems that just kind of echoes across the entire RPG industry. The problem is understanding when you are put in the driver's seat, there's not going to be any tracks. You're going to have to make this thing go where you want it to go. Or if you've opted to be on the roller coaster, you just, you want to play through a very linear module or something that's more structured than just, here's your map, or here's your city, or whatever. Go find something to do. If it takes you somewhere that you don't think you want to go, understand that you signed up to follow this track. And so you just have to be aware of the choices that you've made, not just in the game, but in agreeing to play the game. Of, I have opted for the roller coaster, so let's see where this thing takes us, and maybe I'll be wrong about this particular turn. It actually ended up being good. Or, oh, I'm in control. You're not going to tell me where to go. I have to go find somewhere to go. And again, like, you're asking people to be self-aware, and we know how many people struggle with that particular concept. So, but there was something that we talked about earlier when I went on my rant about the the kind of like spiritual revelation that we've had even within the hobby. And you mentioned that it made you uncomfortable. If you don't mind, what is it about that makes you uncomfortable? Because it makes me uncomfortable, and I'm happy to discuss that as well. But
I always get really sad when I hear that the passion that people had for something important to them is lost, and not because of decisions that they made, but because of the surrounding culture of it. And you know, as much as I always like to read John's comment section and just see the people who are just obstinately, obnoxiously oblivious. Thank you, alliterations. Alliterations are tight. And I do. I have a sardonic laugh, and I know we always like to say it's like, why is this hobby so filled with Tylenol and Clyde alternately sexuality people?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it before. I think of somebody who is I think of a couple of people who are very dear to me, who decided that they didn't want to stream anymore, you know, or do interviews anymore because they were tired of dealing with who liked who and who didn't like who.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why, if you didn't like dealing with it, then why did you let that stop you from doing what you wanted to do? If people are going to do and people are going to act a particular type of way all day, every day anyway, you shouldn't let that stop you. And that's one of the reasons why I was bringing up the thing with your kids, because I'm a very political creature. I really am. I've been since I could remember. I think the moment that I at a very young age watched the towers fall, very keenly aware, and I'm comfortable with inundating myself with news and current events all day. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, that's right. The reason why I had asked you about your wife and your kids and your family, what that gaming situation is like, is because for the same reason why I encourage people, like, yes, it's super fun. It's the cause du jour to constantly watch national politics and be a part of that. But your tax base, and you know, one day you open up your paycheck and you're like, oh my God, why am I getting taxed at a higher bracket? That's more often than not has nothing to do with what a bunch of namby-pamby assholes are doing on the other side of the country. It's what's going on in your own state house and in your own capital. And a lot of people don't show up to change that or realize who's even running. I mean, there's even a story on the East Coast where is it okay to say transsexual? I know that I can't say the other word that I would normally say.
Yes.
But a Satanist transsexual.
I mean, they can be a sectional, you know.
Yeah, sectional. They ran as a Republican, unopposed, and because he had the R next to his name, he secured the nomination and the election, because people didn't do their due diligence, right? They were so enamored with what was going on nationally, right? And to bring the analogy into play here, a lot of people are really concerned with what Wizards of the Coast are doing and what Paizo is doing and what the Ennies are doing, right? And like you were saying, like, it would be a catastrophic event if one day we woke up and Walmart was gone.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think it's going to happen like that, but gradually over time, if the fingers pushing on the scales were to stop and fair market was allowed to actually compete. Case in point, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, but I need to finish this point.
Yeah,
what you're doing at your own table, right? How you're raising your child today, right? You're gonna teach that kid more about what it's like to be a gamer who appreciates the tradition of gaming, and what they're going to do is teach everybody from then on. Like when I went to Dungeons and Dragons Club, the way that I played the game versus the way that I saw other kids playing the game or asking me how to play the game, right? Sometimes I wonder where those kids are at and how they're playing their games. But the locality of it all, you know, starting at your table with your people, not necessarily what's going online, especially these days with the majority of people playing online and successfully so. That I think a lot can be done with that. And yes, it pains me to see a man with a good head on his shoulders, feel like, some of my joy has been taken from me. And I would never tell you to like give up the fight, even right now, as I'm saying, like, oh, you should focus locally, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can also be quite effective by trying to persuade people to be active in their own sphere too, like me right now, trying to tell you, like, look, we need more people like you. Please don't give up, because if you do give up, what it really does is it encourages other people. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's not worth it, because that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me for a really long time. I saw the weirdness going on with Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll tell you what, you don't hear about independent RPGs anywhere else. Like, if I wasn't on X, I never would have found I want to say one of the first people to talk to was Victor, or the Basic Expert, or T-shirt, or any of these, or any for all the knuckleheads. I'm trying really hard, Ryan, really hard. For all the knuckleheads, I think there are 1,000 times more wonderful and amazing individuals that are doing really cool things that if you just went to your local gaming store, you'd never see it.
Right.
And I was very ostracized from my own hobby at the same time. I played War Machine when everyone was playing Warhammer, and how hard I tried to build community after community for War Machine, only to have it fail. And I was like, you know what? Maybe RPGs are dumb, and I need to find another hobby. And then I had kids, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to like run an actual role-playing game for my daughter. That's going to be a fun day for me, and I hope she enjoys it. Otherwise, it's if I can't engage her in it, not if she can't focus on it, if I can't engage her in it, I'm going to feel very bad about myself. But we will deal with that when it comes down to it. But no, a lot of my becoming jaded with the industry and kind of feeling burnt on role-playing games. Some of it is for the longest time I didn't have a regular game. Just I apparently have a uniquely difficult schedule to work with, because I tried to get in on some online games and it didn't work out. I couldn't get like a regular group together for an in-person game, which is what I prefer. But then like there were the kind of the personal wounds that I took in kind of bringing my first book to fruition. Those are still with me and still affecting me in a lot of ways. And the fallout of that kind of showed me things that I didn't really expect to see when it comes to people that I thought were like, on my side in role-playing games. And it's kind of been that's been weighing on me. And then, I mean, just to come right out and say it, I've not been happy with how my book has done. And I've been, I'm happy with the book. I think it's the best work that I could do. There are things that I want to add to it that I will add to it next year when I do the Shadow Dark update. But just feeling like I've released it into the void and it's just kind of floating out there, and no one's responding to it. It's that kind of stuff that has like burdened me, and that's where the kind of weariness with everything that kind of goes into this industry comes from. That, and then just seeing kind of the blatant mask off insanity that so many people just kind of sit and marinate in various RPG circles. That's where that's coming from. I long ago gave up on what Watsy and Paizo were doing. That to me is like watching the AT-AT crash as the speeder has like ensnared it. It's going to take a little bit for it to hit the ground, but the giant's falling. It's already tripped. It's already stumbled. We're just kind of like waiting in that eternity of collapse for that thing to finally hit the ground and explode.
But that's what I mean too, is that, even the smaller turds that are, swimming in that punch bowl, it's like, go find some other punch. I do know what it's like to release stuff into the void.
Yeah.
I got some like kudos and pats on the back when it came to the boy from Estejas, and I got a couple of people talking about wanting to play mutants that never really got back to me. And then I did the Skeeveteer, which was kind of malaligned because at the time I got to work with some really cool people, and I think their opinions of me changed during either the course of making that or immediately afterwards. So it's interesting. I've got a bunch of books that I don't necessarily advertise anymore that I put a lot of work into. And then I think about Endearing Light, which was my Blacklight scenario. And that I put together with one arm behind my back as I was recovering from my thyroidectomy. And I don't think I sold a single copy. I used it as a replacement loss leader because there was from the Beyond, which was a playoff from Beyond that I did, which I think it's a fantastic horror scenario, and I love horror scenarios because they just naturally fit in with my love of playing one shot type scenarios.
Yep.
But Blacklight didn't do very good, and From Beyond didn't do very good. And From Beyond, I think, didn't do well because Drive-Thru would not publish it because of who I chose to work with on that one. Endearing Light, I think it's my own fault because I let myself get beat down with each book that I put out on a technical level, both in writing, in layout and style, has gotten better than the last. But each book has had diminishing returns. The competition is extremely stiff.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a good thing. When it's an exceptionally good thing when I'm competing with you, when I look at Rake's Codex of Nighthaven, and I think, like, again, on a technical level, it is a supreme book. And I think about stuff like Modern Necessities and Mockweedle. I think about Titans of Fallen Earth. Titans of Fallen Earth is a spectacle. I mean, it's so fun to read and to look at and to talk about.
Yep.
And that competition invigorates me because I'm like, look at the wonderful things you can do.
When Greg posts pages, I look at them and I just like have to exhale. I'm just like, whoa.
Dude, like I never thought in the entirety of my life that one of the things I would love saying to the homies is, nice spread, man. You know, it's no homo, totally gay. Nice spreads, dude. But yeah, we are very fortunate to have the people that are making some really kick-ass stuff. The competition that I hate is like low effort, pieced together, and then if you don't buy my book, you're not my friend. That type of shit pisses me off, dude. Like, just get better. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it because, you know, it is entirely possible for you to do everything right and be the best that you possibly can be and still fail.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is Rakes Codex was like your first big project.
It was, yeah.
You're not going to hit it with your first one.
Right.
You might not hit it with your second one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, we didn't know who Kelsey Dion was, and she had been publishing stuff for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I hope it doesn't. I hope the turnaround time for you, Ryan, isn't 10 years. And I hope it's not 10 years for me, for crying out loud. But I am willing to accept the fact that gentlemen like you and myself are young considering.
Yep.
And we are blessed to have a table at home for which we can play the stuff that we make. And I hope that you do find a great well of motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
So that when one day you do reap the fruits of your labor, you realize that it was all worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're right. And it is like, yeah, you just have to keep going. And this is one of the things that I found, another frequent topic that I've been just coming back to over and over again on these streams is I started jujitsu like a month ago, and Crossface and I have been talking about it just nonstop. He started this like community for like guys that are interested in grappling, and so like we just been him and Huigma and a couple other guys who just like will pop up on streams from time to time. Just talking about grappling, and the thing about that, a couple weeks ago, right before I went to the beach, I did my first like entire class of just live rolling. Basically, you were going to do matches over and over again for the entire hour that we've allotted for class, and I got my ass kicked for an hour straight because I'm a white belt, and I was like, I was mad at myself and I was embarrassed, but I was also like, I have to just keep doing this because, I don't know anything, and the only way that I'm gonna learn how to do this is to learn how to do it under pressure. And so just like just keep going in there. And today after class, one of the purple belts walked up to me and said, "Hey, we see the progress that you're making." And I was telling him, like I had my first couple live rolls a couple weeks ago, and it was a nightmare. And he said, "You just gotta keep doing it, and you're gonna be a nail for a long time until one day you're a hammer." And I've seen it happen over and over again. And so, just keep going, just keep getting choked out and armbarred until eventually I'm able to catch that armbar myself and get someone to tap in a metaphorical sense and a literal sense because I'm doing both. So, yeah, that's where we are.
It was really interesting. I think it's one of the reasons why I really loved War Machine. War Machine had what they called Page 5, and they had since gotten rid of it because like all things that are good, evil comes along to make it lazy and effortless because it's sexy that way. But Page 5 was basically that's where the I believe they said play like you have a pair.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Let me see if it's in the War Machine Mark III. And my brother might correct me because I can't remember if they had it in War Machine Mark III or if they dropped it by the time Mark III came around. So give me 1 second. Yeah, they got rid of Page 5, and I remember that was one of the biggest problems with this game, but in Mark 1 and Mark 2, first and second edition, play like you got a pair. You know, win graciously or lose graciously, win humbly. You know, they would tell you, like, you bought the starter set, and inside the book it says you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yep.
It's going to happen. But this game is a tournament game. It's supposed to tickle that hardcore gamer, which is really funny because I'm like one of the more like casual, less like nail biting freakazoid. You know, I've seen some really crazy people play War Machine.
Yep.
But I thought that was really good for the culture of the game. And of course, the moment that they drop page 5, they started dropping everything else that made the game really good. And now it's like in shambles, and it's a second thought run by a different company.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. You know, if hard times create strong men, then strong men have to take it upon themselves to fabricate their own hard times.
Yep.
You know, or be weak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, set that example for your peers, set that example for your kids, and then wonder why they will also take the easy way out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's stabbing you in the back. Sometimes it's not being there when you need the most. Get strong. There's never any shame in being weak. There's only shame in staying weak, right?
Yep. Well, and that's and maybe this speaks a little bit to the crisis of faith that you've been having. And I don't. Every person's walk. This is something like essentially you have to discover yourself, and probably better suited for us to talk about offline in specifics. But there's something that I noticed with starting the jiu-jitsu journey is kind of recognizing your own internal weakness. And so the desire there of a weak person to not be weak anymore means you're gonna have to throw yourself in the fire and endure some pain and hardship and come out the other end stronger, or burn up in the fires of the forge, I guess, is the other option. But come out at the other end stronger. And that's kind of how we, I guess, have to approach everything in life. Is so we've been so conditioned for everything to just kind of come to us easy. And I've struggled with this myself. Things that are worth having don't come easy. And so once you recognize that lack, that weakness, it is then set out on this journey of kind of breaking yourself down and building yourself back up. Or in the case of, like, you know, the spiritual matters, finding the community and the expression of faith that will build you back up. Because that's one of those things I believe firmly that you can't do alone. But it is kind of this recognizing of an internal weakness, and then you realize, okay, if I can either, you know, stay in this state and wither and die, or I am going to have to shed all of this weakness, and it's going to hurt. And, yeah, at the end, it should all be worth it. So, yeah, I guess we continue to find ourselves in the same place of just got to keep going through it. Just got to keep getting hit until it doesn't hurt so much. Until you can hit back.
Right. And like you said, it does help having friends.
Yeah.
But one of the other things too is we've also, not only have we become a society where we just expect things to come easy, you know, with the convenience of Uber Eats and a refrigerator, you know, you would be surprised how lazy man becomes when they have AC and internet. But we've also really come to this idea, and it's probably a problem that was introduced to us by Gen X. I think you're one of the fellow guys that's like, I don't think Gen X is really as good as they try to sell you on, because I always make fun of Gen X for saying like, well, we had the original Star Wars. Yeah, well, Gen X didn't make Star Wars. You consumed Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, where's Gen X to be making the current Star Wars? Oh yeah, that's right. We have gay space lesbians that are immaculately concepting babies. Like that who's making those? I'm telling you right now, it's not necessarily millennials. It is Gen Xers.
Yes.
But we've also become a society where it's like it's none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are you doing? It's none of your business. Why do you care?
How does it affect you personally?
Yeah, how does that affect you personally? Well, you know, it's like I love going to my grocery store. I know all of the cashiers there by name. They're always extremely happy to see me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's perhaps it's a small town mentality, but if I saw a teenager go in there, stuff his pockets full of candy, right? I'm not gonna say I'm gonna parent that child. No, that's not my business. But it is my business if I want to keep my society clean and good discipline and orderly. I hope that I have the courage to stand up and to correct that behavior before it gets out of line, before it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And for all of the people out there that want to complain about page 5 being dropped from War Machine, you know, what was the stink that was raised? Because I mean, if correlation isn't causation, yes, I can agree with that. But the moment that we stopped in War Machine, the moment we stopped saying play like you got a pair, because the obvious connotation was a pair of D6s, because that's the game that is played. Well, then we started seeing other things, right? Like really top tier tactics being let go of, and then the next thing was like, well, you know, take it easy on newer players instead of no, whoop their ass, you know, light a fire in their belly, make them want to play more. And then my wife was done with it because she played the sexy pirate women that had satyr horns. And they were called the Satixis, and every Satixis model had a weapon called Great Rack. Like, come on. All of a sudden, we get rid of play like you got a pair. We got rid of that. And then we were supposed to coddle the new players. And then they went and changed the rules. They went into the digital app and they took away Great Rack and put horns. It's like, no, that's not what it was called. And so I remember being there and being kind of like, you know, I'm not online, and what am I going to do? How am I going to change that? And then I think about all the people who want to complain about gatekeeping this and gatekeeping that, but then, oh, well, you know, this doesn't matter and that doesn't matter. And how does me playing this way affect you personally? It's like, well, then how does my criticism of how you play affect you personally?
Yeah.
Pick a fucking lane.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. If you think I'm full of shit, then you don't have to listen to me. But, you know, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Don't complain about how the furries play if you can't even agree on what fucking game you're playing. And I get it. It's elf game. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, people have to have some conviction, or don't be surprised when one day your Star Wars is filled with very heretical, immaculate conception of space lesbian twins. Like, I'll pick a lane, dude.
And to summarize my thoughts on Gen X, because it's come up a couple times already, for all of the Gen Xers who are watching this right now, I just want to summarize this in one sentence. If you have to continuously tell people how cool you or your generation are, you're not cool, because cool people don't have to say that they're cool. They're just cool.
Nobody is born cool,
right?
Except Hostel Gato.
I love Hostel Gato.
Yeah,
man, that show, that's one I look forward to watching with my daughter. I have very fond memories.
I will say that's probably one of the coolest things a Gen Xer ever made.
Yes. Yep. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Honestly, like those Cartoon Network shows, that's some good stuff. Like any of the stuff that uh I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of his name. Samurai Jack guy.
Gendy
Gendy.
Takahashi.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Dexter's Lab to the Super Friends, like as like an off show skit that got its own run for a little bit. Powerpuff Girls was awesome. I didn't realize. Did you know Hotel Transylvania was a Gendy movie?
Yes.
I just happened to walk out while the kids were watching the credits, and I'm like, what the hell? And then I watched it, and I was like, yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I will have to say he did come out with one of those. He did come out with a movie recently that's about like a dog that's about to get snipped, and I am reticent to watch that because it's one of the things where I'm like, no, Gendy, no, what have you done? You're in your. I think I'd seen somebody say you're in your. Was that stupid Seth Rogen movie about the sausage?
Oh, sausage party.
It's like you're in your sausage party phase. No, it can't be. We've lost him.
Yeah, I mean, like, I still love those original Clone Wars shorts. I like the Clone Wars series that we ultimately got. I think it's good as far as like modern Star Wars is concerned. I think that's good stuff. But the original Clone Wars that he did is fantastic. I love Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack is always going to be a favorite of mine. Man. But yeah, good stuff done by Gen Xers. And but if you have to tell me how cool you are, then you're not cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that Gen X, I would totally, and it's not, I don't hate Gen Xers. There's a lot of Gen Xers. The one that I usually give the pass to is Bear the Gen X DM. Right. Because I'm like, okay, that's his branding. Whatever. Fine. But there are a lot of people who like go out of their way. It's like we have a joke in the world of tradesmen where it's like, you ever seen an electrician pick up a broom? No. Yeah, but I once knew this welder that didn't tell all of the women around him that he was a welder. It's the same shit. Yeah. It's like, yeah, yeah, tell me that you're an uncaring GX and like tell me how long it took you to type on your phone that you're an uncaring Gen Xer. Right?
Yep. If you're a vegan who does CrossFit, what are you going to tell me first?
Right. Oh my God. the stadium of like unbearable morons telling us who they are. Oh, it's right there.
Was that a Stone Toss comic?
I love Stone Toss. Yes.
I'm in a grading personality contest, and this is my opponent.
It's a bicyclist, and he looks up, and it's a vegan.
Yeah.
Man, fatigue. Yeah, there's a little bit of fatigue.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Paddy, we've done about 2 hours now. Thank you so much for this conversation. This went in some unusual directions, but I am so glad that we got together and did this because I come away from this conversation with much to think about.
Well, that's good, especially for us to have our +1 of seat flying pants on and the journeys that I'll take you. I'm really appreciative of you having me on. I mean, I could go on all day. I will probably go eat, and then I might be on my own Rumble channel, just drawing. I have a bunch of commissions. I'm very blessed, and thank you to everyone who's reached out to me for commissions recently. It's made me feel really good and is helping me like put some money into my savings because I got some stuff that's going to probably take me out of work for a little while and some new life adjustments that I have to make. So, yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll start streaming on Rumble later, and you're more than welcome to come on there and be extremely based and say things that would get canceled on YouTube if you want to. I understand you might have to go to sleep too.
Yeah, I do, but it's 10 o'clock here. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. We'll be back next month. I will emphasize, I am going to try to do 2 streams next month. Life has a way of getting in the way of things like this, but that's my intention moving forward, is 2 streams a month. So, thank you for tuning into this one. Thank you again, Paddy, for coming on. Is there anything else you want to plug before we sign off here?
Oh, I am doing a Monster Jam. So
Monster Jam.
Yes, the Monster Jam. My wife is calling me. I'll call her right back. Remind me in 5 minutes. So I'm doing a Monster Jam up until October 10th. You have until October 10th to submit to me via direct message, and I don't care where that direct message comes from, but X is a good place. You could see my tag right there. It's just got to be a monster with a background and a stat block for an indie RPG. And my brother and probably Savage Brewski, who I've seen in chat, depending on who I can get, I know my brother for sure is going to help me judge that. Whoever wins is going to get a full color monster piece of art done by me. And then that person can go on and publish that monster so they could sell it for Halloween. So it's just one of the ways I'm trying to give back. And then my White Dwarf Summer line of merch. It is the 24th. By the time you watch this, it's going to be the 25th, which means you have 5 days before the end of summer, before summer is officially over. If you want to get your White Dwarf Summer t-shirt, your White Shark Summer t-shirt, your White Wark Summer t-shirt, thank you, Space Shark 23 for that collaboration. That's coming to an end. So get it now or forever hold your dwarf piece.
Awesome. And anyone who submits either Gravedigger or Truckosaurus to Monster Jam, it's going directly in the trash.
Right in the trash. Straight out.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you all have a good night and stay safe out there. I love every one of you.